Once again, it's on. I'm Brian Redmond, and this is the Relationship Rehab, and welcome to another life investment experience. What I want to talk about today is bad relationships. Why do we stay in bad relationships in particular? Why do we stay in bad relationships? Especially ones that we know that just aren't healthy for us. They aren't benefiting us in any shape, form, or fashion. And not necessarily when other people around us know that we're in a bad relationship, but when we have actually realized that we're in a bad relationship and we still stay in that bad relationship. So once we've realized it, why do we stay in it? Let's go. So I would say, first and foremost, I would say it's what I would probably call is embracing the devil that you know. So it's easier to deal with the devil that you know as opposed to one that you don't know. So when you're talking about you're in a relationship with somebody, man or woman, and that person is not giving you what it is that you need or meeting your expectations, or that's one thing that you can work on. But when you're talking about being in an unhealthy relationship where there's abuse in place, where you are getting some type of domestic abuse, whether if it's male or female, because they both do it. When you're in that type of situation and you realize that, hey, this isn't healthy for me, I'm not happy, and I'm constantly in a situation where I'm getting abused, then why do we stay in that? And it's because you're used to that particular type of devil. If you grew up, let's say for instance, you grew up in a home where there was domestic abuse, you are familiar with it. And the fact that now you're with somebody and you are actually being victim to it here from a different perspective, because even if you grew up in it, you're still a victim of it in some shape, form, or fashion by watching your mother or your father being abused, verbally, physically, emotionally, those type of things. You still are a victim that when you witness that as a child. But being an adult and you're in that same situation and you're the person that's actually getting the brunt of that, then it's like you stay in it because you're so familiar with it. So being familiar with something, whether it's good or bad, it tends to put you in a state to where you're more accepting of it and you're more willing to go along with it because it's just something that you know. So that's embracing that devil that you know already, as opposed to one that you don't know. The other one is accepting or acknowledging yet another failed relationship that you may be in. So when you have met that person, that woman or that man that you are just so excited about and you are just so enthralled with, and everything is great, everything is wonderful, and then things start to get rocky, and then things start to get bad, and your friends around you notice that, and they're constantly telling you like, hey, you should get out of this isn't working for you, hey man, she's no good for you, and those type of things. You don't want to hear that, because you don't want to begin to accept and acknowledge the fact that this could be yet another failed relationship. And when you're on bad relationship number 2, that's one thing, but when you're on bad relationship number 22, it's real hard to just accept that and acknowledge that fact that I'm in yet another failed relationship. So we don't want to accept that failure. We don't want to acknowledge that failure, and we will sometimes go way beyond what we would normally do, our normal boundaries, to try to make that thing work or to try to hold on to that man or to that woman. You begin to lose yourself in doing that. So it's like you don't want to put yourself in a position to where you have begun to give who you are and what it is that you're about. When you've given that up and you forfeited that just to try to make something work, it's not worth it. And that's sometimes where you have to just say, hey, I gotta suck it up, and I just have to admit that this is a failed relationship and begin the process of moving on. But when you don't want to get to that point, then that's why you stay in a bad relationship. And another point too is the fear of starting over. So fear of starting over is you don't want to go back to the dating scene. You don't want to go back to whether it's online dating, in the club dating, at this party dating, whatever the case may be. You don't want to get back into that lifestyle of being single again. Now you're looking for somebody and you got to deal with this person. I don't know if he crazy, I don't know if she crazy. I got to do this whole getting to know each other process all over again. And that is difficult and it's hard, and you can get to the point to where you get tired of it and you don't want to do that. So you kind of, stay away from going and getting back out there, and you try to work on that thing that you have. And even in some cases, when you've ended a relationship, you'll just dip back, or you'll step back into that for a little while, for a little gratification, then you'll step back out, or what I call doing the relationship hokey pokey. No pun intended. But at the end of the day, you will try to, be a little less likely to just get back into that dating scene, because you don't want to get into that process of meeting somebody new again, because that may fail too, and then you're right back in at square one. We don't want to acknowledge the fact that we might get back into that cycle. Last but not least is self-worth. Self-worth is probably the main reason why we stay in bad relationships, because we feel in the back of our mind, in our subconscious, or even in those moments when we're all alone and we're thinking about the relationship that we're in, that we're not worth something better. We're not worth actually getting out of this situation that we're in. We may think that we deserve to be where we're at, and where we're at is just a reflection of how good we are and what we're worth, and that's why we're where we're at. And that in itself, I believe, is probably the main thing that keeps us in those relationships. We don't have that self-esteem and that self-worth to know, hey, I need to get out of this because of the simple fact that I know I'm better than this. I know that I'm worth more than this. And at the end of the day, when you can't acknowledge that, then that keeps you kind of where you're at. Now, I think that you need to make sure that you can tackle that one first and foremost, because if you can do that, if you can know what your self-worth is, and you can know that you're not where you're supposed to be in this particular relationship, if it's not giving you what you need, and if it's abusive for you, then you should know that, hey, I'm worth more than to stay in this thing that's not working for me, that's hurting me, that's tearing me down, and that is not benefiting me in no shape, form, or fashion, to where I can move out of that and say, hey, I'm out of here, just for that simple fact that I know I'm worth more than where I'm at. So when you can get to that, and you can make sure that your self-worth, and you know what your self-worth is, and you know that you're better than what it is, that situation that you're in, then now you can work through those other things, and you can acknowledge where you're at, because you know that you're worth more than where you're at right now. So that right there is what I think is very, very pivotal, most important, as far as what you need to make sure that you realize that you're doing. Don't stay in a relationship that you know isn't working for you, because you are worth more than that. Whether you see it right now, or whether you see it 10 days from now, or 10 months from now, or even 10 years from now, if you are in a situation that's not working for you, it's not healthy, and it's not working out, get out of it. Because at the end of the day, and even in cases when you have children that are in those situations with you, if you don't want that for your kid, because what your kid sees is what your kid will reflect, regardless of what you say, and say, oh well, mama tell my kid not to do what I do, or I'm gonna make sure my son don't get into the thing that I got into. If a kid is watching you long enough, they will begin to emulate the behavior that they are exposed to. So if not just for yourself, for your children's sake, get out of those relationships that are unhealthy, that are abusive, that are not working for you, and that are not benefiting you. If nothing but more than just to teach them how to do it, get out of it at the end of the day, because you're worth more than that. I hope that this has helped somebody. I hope that this, at the end of the day, helps somebody become a better version of themselves. I appreciate the time that you took to just watch this, and I hope that somebody can learn something from this. Please like it, please share it, subscribe to my YouTube, because there's always something else that's coming, and make sure that, hey, at the end of the day, no matter what it is that you're doing, that you are becoming a better version of yourself. I'm Brian Redmond. This is the Relationship Rehab, and I thank you once again. I love y'all to life. Peace.